what's your reasonings for being here today? Help me understand that.
About a year ago, I had a fire and had to rebuild my shop.
Okay.
So it might be feasible at this point in time for a wire for electricity to go to solar. I'm just curious about how it works. If it's going to pay back for the whole person to do something.
Would you be buying it as a business or would you be buying it as a residential?
Well, it's on a residential property, but it's a separate building unused for.
Because there's depreciation from a business perspective. You could write off your solar system in about 6 years and have a complete payback in about 8. So that depends. That's a great one. So that's where your thinking is, hey, do I put solar on or not at this stage? And if so, do it while I'm still in my
Just
infrastructure.
have a brand new roof, I don't know if you have to do anything to the structure itself.
Yeah, there will be structural evaluations as well. So. All right. What have you heard about solar? I mean, what are people telling you besides it's free and the government's going to give it to you and things like that?
Not free. Someone did recently say that in Kentucky they did keep net metering. I know that was on the table for a while, so that was good news.
Yeah, there was some mixed news on what happened in Kentucky. The first thing is they did pass the law that said that net metering was gone. It's literally gone. So some utilities will opt to still give you some monies back, but not a full one-to-one. So certain utilities that rhyme with KU and LG&E, they opted to try to give you guys back just 4 cents per kilowatt. And when everything was said and done and the law was finally passed, they said no less than 7 cents per kilowatt. So some utilities are just giving you only 7 cents. Duke, on the other hand, will do a full net metering with you. So that's fantastic news. That could change like that. So
What about being grandfathered in?
if you're in before the law changes, you're grandfathered in. If you're in Indianapolis, for example, right now, and you don't get panels on your roof before July, you don't get net metering in Indiana. So let me get started. You guys all ready to go? We streaming? All right, good. I got my nerves out, so we're ready to roll. So Icon Solar is an older company. I mean, we've been around since 2009 doing solar, and we've been, over 13 years of our existence now. All we do is solar, and all we do is we use the top of the line equipment. If you want to come in and go cheap, don't come talk to us. I mean, we're going to give you a quality product that's going to have a 30-year warranty on it with parts and labor, and it's lasting 40 to 50 years on people's houses. So any investments that you guys make will last longer than you'll be here on this planet. And it'll be a green energy investment. All we do is solar. We don't mess around with anything else. Occasionally we'll do these Tesla car charger things, and we definitely do batteries. But that's it. I mean, we don't do roofs, we don't cut down trees, we don't even try to give you advice on those things. Or other things like moving your electric boxes around. If you want to do electrical work, hire an electrician, get all that bonded and licensed, and then when you're ready to do solar, that's what we're here for. There's a lot of misconceptions about where we are in the world as far as solar. Here we are up in nice little Ohio, and you can see over here that we're going to get about 4 to 4.5 hours of solar radiation every single day, all throughout the year. If you look at Florida down here, there's not a significant difference between Ohio and Cincinnati, where we are, and even Tennessee, where I'm from. It's hot in both places, and it works. Most of the folks here in the Midwest, if you have a south-facing roof, and we can use all of that, your solar systems will usually pay for themselves in about 10 to 12 years. Meaning, you wouldn't be paying your own electric bill. If you give me cash to buy a solar system, 10 to 12 years from now, all that money that you gave me, you would have given to the utility company. And for the rest of your next natural life, you would continue to give them money. In our case, you can either finance a solution, have it over with in 20 years, or you can pay cash and get it over with now. There are tax incentives. You do have to have a taxable income in order to benefit from this, but if you're paying taxes like most of us are, you can get 26% of your tax credit back at the end of next year.
So the initial figure you gave for payback does not include any tax incentives?
It includes the tax incentive.
It does include tax incentives.
Yeah, most people will pay about $32,000 to $46,000 if they're financing. It'll be in that range. So they'll get anywhere from about $7,500 all the way up to, I've seen some people get $12,000, $13,000 back, with much bigger deals. So, getting almost a third of your investment is a great way to start that return on the investment. We do grid tied. Has anybody thought about going completely off grid? Because let me dissuade you from that thought. Don't do that. Don't do that. But this is how solar works. We have static electricity occurring through a chemical effect on the roof called the photovoltaic effect. It sends direct current into the microinverters. Underneath each and every one of these little panels is a microinverter. That microinverter on the fly does several things. The first thing it does is it senses what's happening with the electricity around you. What's Duke giving me, or what's LG&E giving me, and how much am I getting from these panels? And it's watching both flows. If it has more power on the roof than it needs in the house, it says to the utility, hey, stop, I'm sending power to you now. And it sends the power through your meter that they're going to swap out on your house. They'll swap out a meter and it will literally spin backwards, which is kind of neat. It's digital now, but it was kind of neat when you saw the little thing spinning the other way. But the fact of the matter is all of this process converts the energy off of your roof, informs your solar system whether or not it's got enough energy to power the house. If it does, then it says, do I have extra energy? And if it does have extra energy, it sends it immediately to the transformer in your neighborhood, going directly to your neighbors. Your neighbors will be paying for your energy that you produced, and they'll pay that to Duke. Duke will turn around and pay you for sending that energy. And today, that's a one-to-one relationship. Any questions about how photovoltaic and how the power comes through the house into your meter, how it works? Anything on that?
I do have a question, but I'll hold it for later.
Okay, go ahead.
And it's a question about the new meters that Duke has put up, and if they're how can you tell if they're shortchanging you or not?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll get to that. Remind me when I get to software.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can watch it.
Not real happy.
So here's Duke, which you can't really see because it is a little light on the screen here. Is they're actually giving you some money back. When I talk to you at first, the first thing I want to see is your electric bill. I'm very interested in how much energy do you use on a regular basis. This person looks like a couple. They're about 737 kilowatts on average. A single male, for example, is about 400 kilowatts on average. A family is about 1,200 kilowatts on average. I'm kind of used to seeing these things. And what happens is I look to try to build a solar system off of an entire year's worth of data. The model is that you're going to be using a solar system throughout the year. During the summertime, you're going to way overproduce in the amount of energy that your house is capable of using and producing. And in the wintertime, you're going to soften that cycle out. You're going to be a lot softer, about a third of your production compared to what you would be in from January to July is amazing. So it's neat. You actually do get credits back on your bill. And it's still happening here even after the law got passed. A lot of people want to know about batteries. Anybody out there have any ideas about whether they were thinking about batteries? I'll tell you where I see them. I see them when a person has a CPAP machine and they do not want to deal with fuel. They do not want to deal with having to get up and go flip a switch on a generator that just flipped. And they want the room that they're in with the lights turned on. They want the refrigerator running. They want whatever pumps are in the house going, whatever freezers, internet sometimes. With a battery, you can do this. It's pure luxury. For some folks, it's a medical necessity. But, you know, if you have the option of having a generator, consider the cost of a generator over the cost of a battery. Batteries are relatively expensive to start out with, but they are like nothing else. You have no sound coming out of it. There's a small little fan, but unless you're really obsessed with small noises, you're not going to hear it. And that's it. You know, when the power goes out, 6 to 8 circuits in your house would still stay completely turned on. If you have
How
two.
is that decided?
Hmm?
How's that determined?
You
Which
tell me if you want a battery, I sell you a battery.
No, I mean which circuits?
You tell me.
Oh,
And then I tell you if that'll work in your battery. So for example, what would you want when the power goes out?
in the wintertime?
In the wintertime or in the summertime or whenever?
My furnace fan.
So your furnace fan, that'll take up 2 circuits. So now you got 4 more. What else?
Refrigerator.
Refrigerator. So we're up to 3. What about the light in the bedroom or the internet or the TV?
Internet would be one.
So that's, yeah, what are we up to? 4? So you get it. You see what's happening. So that's one battery. Now if you say, well, I want to be a little bit more comfortable than that when the power goes out, we add a second battery. And that second battery will allow you to add another 6 to 8 circuits. And then you just continue to build until you're at a point where you say, hey, I've got everything going, including the air conditioning. And your cost is going to multiply significantly.
So when generation is much lower in the winter, it is.
Yeah.
How is the battery kept charged?
The battery's fine. We're going to dedicate 26 panels to a single battery, or 19 panels, depends on which battery you get. So as long as the sun is showing up every single day, the battery will be charged every
But
single
there's
day.
very cloudy days, and
Yeah,
quite
there'll be-
often that happens when there are storms. So
Yeah, there's going to be some days that, due to weather, because you don't have the sun, you're not going to have a battery either. But on those days, you can pull the energy from the utility, hold it, and if you have a power outage, use your battery then.
So it will recharge the battery off the grid, is that what you're saying?
Well, from the grid, not off the grid. But
Well,
yeah,
that's what I meant.
yeah, you certainly can. So yeah, batteries can be used as a way of just holding and storing storage. We're using it every single day, at nighttime to offset. So over here in Kentucky, if that law ever did fully take place, then you'd want to use your batteries as a way of using that extra energy that you stored so you could save on your nighttime usage. I have one guy with 3 batteries, and he is in a part of Kentucky where they did give him the 4.5 cents. So he bought 3 batteries, made a gesture in the air to the utility company, and
Just
then
one.
basically, yeah, maybe 2 gestures. But ultimately, every night now he powers his entire home that he and his daughter live in. And this is another interesting thing too. So everybody buys for their own reasons. This guy's in his 70s. He's a Vietnam veteran. He says, this is my final home. My daughter is a nurse. She lives with me, and I'm giving her this home when I pass. The only agreement is that she takes care of me until I pass. And I thought, these are interesting ways that people do what they do. Whenever I sit down in front of somebody, my fascination is, why are you doing this? What is it for you? What do you want? And when they tell me their stories, they're fascinating. I mean, some people are in historical homes. They want to preserve the look of the home. Let's kind of get into some of that. There is the 26% tax credit. I kind of covered that. There's 2 ways that people go about doing this. They'll either finance. In the case of financing, go ahead.
Can I ask you a real quick question
Yeah.
about batteries, everyone?
Oh, yeah.
So what kind of batteries are they in? I've seen a lot of information that they're really bad for the environment. If they die, where do they go?
Nobody knows yet.
Nobody knows?
No, I'm kidding. There's some people that know.
Wow.
But it's true. So that's a market that is still yet to develop a lot. But the reclamation of products is usually going to come through the manufacturers. So what'll happen is this: if you buy a Tesla today, a Tesla car or anything, at some point in time they're going to want to buy the material to reprocess it. So it'll be a place you could take it, and it'll be recycled. It's going to be no different with your lithium batteries. Today when we turn in cell phones, back in the day, people were like, what are we going to do with all these cell phones? Well, businesses popped up all over the place to do this. If you go through one of my warranty claims, for example, I'm going to take your panels off of your roof and I'm going to send them to the manufacturer so that they can reclaim that. So in most cases, it'll be the manufacturer taking it back. I was only teasing about we don't know what it looks like yet. But yeah, they are horrible. You would not want these things sitting around after you use them.
I mean, you have to depend on people to do that.
Yeah. I mean, today we have industrial waste that we have to take care of all over the place. When you think about the offset of how much of a carbon footprint change you're going to make by making this investment in this, quote, dirty/green technology, the reality of it is it definitely justifies the means at the end, you know. Your carbon footprint, in some cases where people were able to go and get more energy than they actually use, they literally can reverse their carbon footprint. It's fascinating. Good question about, we on batteries, we good?
I have a question about the snow cover
Yeah.
that happens on these panels.
Yeah.
Heavy snow, how do you eliminate the snow off of these panels? And what about the snow load that might cause extra weight on these panels?
Yeah, so the panels on the roof are about 50 pounds by themselves, just sitting there, 2 pounds per square foot. Most of the roofs that we are angling on are going to be 26 degrees, sometimes 30 degrees. When the snow falls on that, the only time we have problems here in the Midwest is when we get that lovely sleet snow that kind of comes in and then it just kind of melts to everything and then starts to glaze over and becomes icicle. I'm more concerned about the ice that would develop on your panels to stop your sunlight than the sun around here. Most of the last few years, we haven't had a big enough snow, and we're not in places like New York where there's so much snow that stacks up for so long. But yeah, there was 3 days last year that my people didn't have their batteries fully charged or didn't even get much sunlight at all because 2 of those days their panels were frozen solid and they were getting messages saying, "We can't see the sun." Which, by the way, on your little phones, you're going to have an application that you'll be tracking everything. I tease people. I say your newest game you're going to play is called your video of your array, and they watch their array and it tells them messages, and you can see how much energy you're producing. You can check to see if the utility is being fair. Huh?
There's video on?
No, I mean you'll see your video of your panels moving. It's not a video. It's a presentation of your panels live. Is what I should have probably said. Your panels will stream to you. How's that?
So you mentioned cloudy days, extended battery doesn't get fully charged. So if it's fully charged, what makes it discharge?
Good question. So you can discharge it with software programming. For example, I want to discharge every night my battery down to 30% storage, and I want to use that energy at nighttime. Or you say, don't discharge until you sense that there's no power coming from the grid. At that point, discharge. So it just depends on what your programming for your scenario could be. And again, you just grab your phone and say, leaving the house, go into out of house mode or whatever, you can program it like that. Yeah.
So, let's see, what was the question I had? So if, which one's best for battery life? Because you know how it is with phones and stuff. They're always saying don't charge above this or below that.
There's, you're saying whether discharge or don't discharge, it depends on your scenario. These things are designed to be used every day. So, they've got a 10-year warranty and a 15-year warranty. It depends on which brand you go with. So the realities are these things will last every bit of 10 to 15 years easily. Tesla cars are still driving today with some of the very first battery technologies that they had. So we fully anticipate that when you buy one of these things, you're going to get a minimum of 10 to 20 years or 10 to 15 years out of it.
I just have one other question too about Teslas and batteries. Can you set up a separate array to charge an electric car?
You wouldn't want to do that because here's the deal. When you go to buy a car, the smallest battery in that car is a 50 kilowatt battery.
Yeah.
Most of them are going to have a 100 kilowatt battery. Your entire solar system array and that one little battery that you would have in the house is about 1.3 kilowatts. So it is 13,000 watts, which is great for powering a house. Not even enough to get you to drive out of the driveway and down the street for a charger. So there's a ratio. I mean, your energy that you're putting into that car is storing 50 kilowatts of energy. That's a huge amount of energy. That's enough to power your house for a full day. And that's just to charge your car. So it's a relationship between how much energy. Think about it. You're replacing a gas fuel with an electrically charged battery. How much energy would it take to stick into that battery to get you to go to the 200 to 300 miles that those cars could go? So the relationship of having a battery array set up just for a car would
Oh,
probably
no, I
be.
mean, having the solar panels directly charge your car.
Oh, they can, because they're directly going to charge your house. So what happens is the panels on your house are charging everything in that house. And now your car's plugged in.
I'm confusing it, because one, I already have solar panels and you
Yeah.
guys do.
Oh, good.
And two is, so our off-street parking is so far from the house that we have to run wiring and stuff. So
Oh.
it makes really difficult to even think
Yeah.
about getting an electric vehicle.
Yeah,
But the site where we could put a few solar panels to charge the car.
I see. Now you could do that to offset whatever's going on there, but that would be that'd be a very small return on your investment. That would be if you were like, hey, we just want to say our car's charged by the sun. You could put an array out there, and it could certainly supplement, but it wouldn't be able to. Well, I guess if you kept it there all day and you had enough panels on it, yeah, you could charge. You could get pretty significant charge, but I don't know that it would be better than pulling the energy straight out of the utility in that case. Just to be fair. Good
I was
question.
just trying to imagine digging up
Yeah.
running wire.
Well, we could trench to that. We could trench and run a pole out there for you, and then you'd charge your car on the side of the street if that's what you wanted to do. So are we good on batteries then? Incentives. Everybody understands the 26%, how that works?
So if you go back, so it goes down to 22%, 23, it goes completely away at 24.
Yeah, I tell people, you got 2 more years to figure this out if you want any kind of a federal discount. So I had one guy tell me yesterday, well, we're going to do all these other projects first, and then we're going to come around and come back to the solar. And I said, when is that going to happen? He said, well, probably next year. I said, oh, okay, so you're happy with just 22% tax credit. He looked at me and said, what do you mean? I said, well, today it's 26, next year it's 22, and the cost of everything is going to probably be another 8% higher next year. So I don't know, when do you want to buy solar? Might be a good idea to consider it this year. This is kind of an interesting chart. Today, the cost of living is actually 4.75%. So if you have an $1,800 or a $1,200 electric bill today, you're only spending, how many people are in the $100 range? Nobody? $150 range? Anybody in the $200 range? Okay, so hands are going up. If you're paying $2,400 today, 10 years from now, it could be $3,664 or $44. That just seems absurd. But look at your bills here recently. How many of you were paying 8, 7, 9 cents last year? What is it this year? It's at least 12 or 13. It's at least 12 or 13. When I sold solar in New York, anybody want to venture what they were paying back in 2014 and 15 for just electricity in New York? Oh, come on, guys. It's New York. What do you think they were paying? You guys are paying 8 and 9 cents last year. 7 years ago, they were paying 35 cents per kilowatt.
We'll just like around.
There's people around here that in Indiana and some parts of Kentucky that are paying 15 and 16 cents. So it's just a matter of time. It really is. And Duke is still a little low for now.
Yeah, gas prices are going up.
Gas prices are going up. So folks, no matter what happens, you got to think about this as, do I want to just be that person that will just go with the flow? Or am I going to make a change in my life that's going to allow me to live a certain lifestyle that very few people can do? I live in a historic home. I can somehow match all the things I want together in one thing. We've been working with historical homes for years. There's a process to it. Besides the homeowners association, which most of you probably don't have to deal with, there's still, a historical society that needs to get involved. If there is a board hearing or anything, get me involved. I'll come and answer any questions that they have. But for most of us, it's just roll up our sleeves and go do a project. Each project's going to be unique. Your houses are unique. I'll show you some interesting examples here. We've got flat roofs almost everywhere. This is an absolutely gorgeous one where we just tucked everything away at the top. This is a very, very, very old picture, but you get the general idea. This is a custom project. It's still actually in the middle of being done when you see that picture there. I think they're almost finished with it there. This is C4, and all of these things across the top are solar panels made to look like an awning. A unique way of taking your business and doing something a little different with it. Again, in a business perspective, the return on the investment is almost so stupid, I don't know why every small business with a roof that can use it isn't out there doing it. The way you can depreciate panels, here's another example of a flat roof. You can go with ballast systems. This is again a dated picture today. The ballasts are more plastic looking, much more sleek. But you can see, you can do all kinds of things. You can point these panels in the right direction. You can grab the sun that you need, and you can pick these things up and move them if you're just leasing your space. By the way, we would never, let me rephrase that. If you were subletting your space out, meaning this is your building, you put panels on it, and now you're going to pick up your operations, you can literally pick up your panels and just move them in a scenario like that. Not a big deal. Again, some more pictures. You can see the historic aspects. We're all over down here. This was an old project, and here is a roof that looks like a church across the street. We literally had to build a cable system to hold the panels. So this is about 12 years old, just to give you an idea. But again, custom work. I see the people that are doing the glass, and everything around here is custom. All of your houses, what are these boxes on the side of your houses called? Breaker boxes, or what is it? The box cutters. Box cutters, yeah. So I'm learning all sorts of things about you folks. But as far as solar panels are concerned, things we're not going to do is we're not going to get up on your slate roof and try to do anything with that. Forget about it. If you got a slate roof, you better have someplace else you want to put panels. Tile roofs, the stucco, forget about them too. Anybody got any of those? Because we can't.
What about metal roofs?
Metal roofs are perfect. I love metal roofs. We've got a little clamp that depends on the style. If you have a standing seam metal roof or if you have a curved one, there's these little metal clamps that'll stick right on the top. You'll tighten these screws up into it to tighten onto the seam, and then you build your rail system on a rail platform on top of that. Yeah, those are fun.
So does it matter at all which way your roof is facing?
There are more efficient angles. For example, south is the most predominantly best angle for the sun. But east and west are about 14% less efficient, and then north is a full 30% less efficient than south. But if you're in a situation and your goal is to be green and that's what you want, then you can buy enough panels on any one of those facing roofs to get you to your objective. The return on the investment might be neutral, but if your goal was to go green, what do you care? I have few projects like that. People will tell me that they want to go green, and then they look at the cost of going green, and then all of a sudden it's, well, maybe we could do other things. But south-facing roof, east-facing roof, west-facing roof, almost all of you in those scenarios will have a complete return on your investment before 16 years.
I have a question, like when the panels are in place, do they actually shelter decreased heat gain underneath?
Good question and good observation, yeah. I mean, when you have direct sunlight hitting a metal roof or a shingle roof, heat is transferred and it goes directly through the wood into the house. Now you put a large array of metal and glass and reflective material and heat absorbing material called a solar panel on your roof, and the temperatures underneath that house in a normal hot summer day can be as much as 9 or 10 degrees lower than if you just had the sun beating down on the roof. So yeah, The other thing is it decreases the amount of degradation that the shingle itself would get, because the sun is what tears apart that shingle. If you haven't walked on a roof recently, you'll see all these little granular things, and over time those granular things get washed down, they get into your gutters, and you think, what the heck is all this? That's your asphalt falling off of your roof, and eventually you're going to need to replace that roof.
What about rubber roofs?
We do the ballasts on the rubber roofs, you know, those flat things. It's a delicate, very delicate operation, but it is done all the time, especially on businesses. And I have a few very custom homes where we had to go with the rubber membrane roofs, and we do that. So yeah, it works. It's just delicate, but yeah, it works. Any other questions? Those are great questions, thank you. How long have you been a customer?
2018.
Okay, all right. This is an interesting project. Again, the panels are over here and over here. Get a little closer in on that one. It's a fairly modern one. So we talked about how do people pay. You could either finance it 20 years at 0.99, or you can go for longer than that. You can go for shorter than that. You can pay cash. Those are the options. As far as we talked about south-facing roofs, I think we answered that one. Thank you. What happens on a cloudy day? We talked about that. What happens on a snowy day? Again, looking back historically, there was a couple of times that I remember major issues with our panels. In 2019, when tornadoes hit Beaver Creek, I'm proud to say that we actually had to go and take panels off of 23 customers' roofs, but only one of them got hit completely with the tornado, and yet those panels, when they were found in the field, weren't even cracked. The roof was torn off, but the panels somehow made it through.
And hail.
Hail,
Not a
yeah,
problem.
not a problem at all, I know. And that's good to have a person who's out there. So any questions about monitoring the system? I mentioned the software, and we were going to get to the software to answer your question, and that is, you'll be able to track exactly how much energy is coming through your system, how much energy is going out, how much energy you're producing, how much energy you're consuming, and then you can look at the end of the month and tally that up with what your utility said that they saw. So talk to the guys, Tyler, in our operations about the software. If you're not using it.
I've got the incoming. I just don't see where the outgoing.
Okay, so it depends on where your panels are. If they're not on the house directly,
They are.
okay, then you should. Well,
And it's changed with Duke's new.
the new meter, yeah. Well, what happened was they were probably doing estimates for you now. Now what they're doing is they've really got your stuff now, so.
No, they don't.
So
It
some
does
people-
not match up with
Some
what
people
I'm
are saying
generating.
that it doesn't match up with what's going on. Yeah, I agree. That's a Duke problem. I can't help you with that.
So there's an issue with their meters then.
There could be. There could be. I mean, I'm not gonna say that you're not the
They're
first
saying
person.
I'm generating half of what I think I'm generating.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah, that is a problem. Well, talk with our people, make sure your system's working 100%. And then,
Well,
I
it's
mean,
saying I'm making more, so
and then I can actually look at your software right now, but I'm not gonna do that in the middle of this session.
Yeah. Duke's a pain, by the way, but you can start calling.
What if the roof isn't best for solar? It's very rare that I'm gonna do a ground mount, especially here. This isn't gonna happen. So if your roof's not good enough, I had a guy come up yesterday and say, can I put them on the side of the wall? And I said, why would you wanna do that? And then they explained the way the house was leaning and everything. And I still know we're not gonna put them on the side of your wall. And there are, if you did have property, ground mounts could work, but putting steel in the middle of a pandemic out into a field to just hold panels just seems silly to me. But, I'll sell you if that's what you want. But I wouldn't recommend it. Any other questions? This has been good. I actually enjoyed this. I think we're done. There. Yes, we are done. Solar is not for everybody. I mean, some of your houses will just not be ideal for solar. Some of you will have to put in your mindset, how much can I produce for myself? And the realistic expectation is I'm only going to really make an investment where it makes sense. to, you know, if that means going with a small array of under 15 panels, maybe it's not financially responsible to do that. And I'll tell you, because there's an economy of scale. Anytime I have to get young men and women involved in putting your project together, you know, there's people involved. There's an economy of scale. Like, I'm thinking about your projects too. I mean, at some point in time, it doesn't make sense to come to you to work, right? Unless it's a certain size. And we're going to tell you that about your solar system. You know?
What's the optimum?
Optimum would be able to be, yeah, I have people that can do 120% of their energy.
Oh,
And
no,
then
but I mean, optimum number of panels.
it depends on your usage. It depends on your usage. If I'm going to come out to a house, at a minimum, I want to see at least 15 panels before it makes financial sense to me. But I'm not you. You might look at this and say, I don't care. This is what I want to spend for my solar. I'm now green. I'm happy. You know, other people may look at that and say, that's going to take 18 years to get a payback. I might not live that long. So they're out. You know, again, everybody's got a very unique personal connection to how much of an investment they want to make, how green they want to be, and what they want to get out of life. You know, whether it be,
I have 20.
yeah. So, good questions. Folks, if you're interested in solar, I've got some sheets downstairs. Just let me know. I think I've got yours already. I think if you guys are interested, just come on downstairs and I'll give you a card. And I set up Zoom meetings initially. My job is to just sort of give you an overview. If you like what you see there, we're going to send some people to your house. We're going to do all sorts of measurements. Then we're going to get back to you with some final numbers and say, this is what your project looks like. And about 6 to 8 weeks later, we can start calling you to get panels onto your house. So that's about where we are. Kentucky, the fastest I've ever done it was 3 weeks. I went to a doctor's house one day. We agreed on something, put 35 panels just right over his garage. That was it, just a perfect rectangle. He was a surgeon. Oh yeah, that's all he wanted was just, that's where I wanted it. I don't want it anywhere else in my house, just back there. And he did. So that's what he did. And 3 weeks later, we were putting the panels up. It was that quick. So
What's the name of the app you're using?
the Enlighten app.
So is that connected to the inverter?
Yeah, in fact, are we done streaming? Because I'd love to show her. Yeah, we're not done
Because
streaming.
I have my solar edge.
Okay, so you're using the Solar Edge then, so you'll have to look at that app, and I'll have the guys talk to you about that. I don't have the access to that one here. That would have been fun to see your panels up on the screen. Yeah.
So if I can jump in, I'm with the planning committee. We want to thank Icon Solar for being.
Oh, thank you.
This event. Thank you so much. And let's thank Sean for his time.
Are you happy to give a testimony? If you
Yeah,
like.
by all
I mean, I
means.
don't have to if you don't want to.
No, hey, you seem like a happy customer. What am I gonna
Well, we've done several projects with our historic home, and it was the best run project of anything
Thank you.
that we have done.
Thank you.
I mean,
That's
from
great.
the planning all the way through the permitting, which is huge, as you know,
Yeah.
including the COA.
Yeah, and we're a turnkey, so thank you so much for that. I mean, that's it. When you come to us, you're saying, just take care of this problem for me.
Also, my
And I'll do
inverter
it.
went out, and was replaced it, not us, under warranty.
We did what now? We did.
You replaced my inverter at no cost.
Oh,
under
I
warranty.
thought you said we brushed through your pergola and we replaced it. I was like, that's actually happened once. That's happened. I know everybody on the project had something like that happen.
And do
Yeah.
you utilize
One more
tax
question.
credits?
Oh, yeah, but that was back when
Considering
we
these
still had
panels,
3%.
Okay, but, well, tax credit.
I'm concerned about the reflection from the panels against the rest of my house and through my glass that might raise this. I have OE insulated glass on the back of the house, but I'm concerned about how much
Reflection would come off.
reflect.
Because of the black plane, you know, the way it is, the light is captured. You're not gonna have like a glare off of a piece of glass or anything like that. But, you know, we'd have to look at all of that. That's why we would do a site survey. If something shows that could cause an issue, then we're gonna tell you it's a no-go.
I said in the tax credit.
What do you know about the new GAF, like shingle style panels?
Piece of junk.
What's that?
It's a piece of junk.
Really?
Yeah, It's built on an old piece of junk technology called central inverter. It's Tesla's hyped up way of just saying, hey, we've got something fancy for you people who have so much money that you don't know what to do with it, so you're gonna help us with research and development. It takes over 3.5 weeks for us to install one of those things. We were licensed to do it. We had about 3 customers come around here. Each of them were quoted over $100,000 just to get it done. It's just pie in the sky.
Is the GAF product different than the Tesla product?
I'm not, I stopped paying attention to it after we stopped getting into it. So, yeah, it's just, right now, those panels, they're all pie in the sky stuff.
Because the Tesla is a hard panel, isn't it?
There were 2 Tesla panels, and that's another thing. Tesla's not in the panel manufacturing business anymore like they used to be. The reality of it is that they had these little shingle tiles, which is the ones that were coming out. And each one of those has a wire that would have to be drilled through the ceiling to come down underneath the roof to be connected to an array underneath the house. And you can imagine, it's like every single tile is now attached to a serial bus. It's absolutely bonkers. Bonkers. Just won't be a new technology anytime soon that's going to be viable.
Yeah. Sorry if I missed this earlier in the presentation. So will Icon come out, is Icon charged for coming out to see a house and figure out?
Cost of doing business. I mean, if you're, no, it's cost of doing business. I do a Zoom meeting with you so that you can see what numbers look like. If you're comfortable with numbers, then we talk about how do you want to pay. Finance, we set up the financing. Once all that's done, I send people out to the house. They're going to come take, and I'm going to get a bunch of pictures from you to say, hey, here's Christopher's house. This is what you're getting ready to go into. And then when they show up at your house, it's all about, let's see what we can do to get the efficiencies that Sean said we could get off of his roof. Then we validate everything, and then we say to you, here's your contract, here's your final documents to say, is this what you want? You tell me yes. As soon as you tell me yes, I start spending money for you. If you have a solar nightmare, after that, or God forbid something should happen in your life, which has happened, you call me back and you say, Sean, I can't go through with this. And then I say to you, well, we spent $850 to get your permits done. That's on you. But other than that, you're out. I mean, so it's most cases you go all the way through a project with somebody, but life happens. If it does, we're not going to be like some solar companies out there. You signed a contract, you're getting solar panels. And it is what it is. I actually had that happen twice, and both of them were job related. They lost their jobs. So we just said, God bless you both. You're out. We'll just. In fact, one of those times we just ate the thing because we just felt so bad for the poor person. It was really close to install too, which really irritated everybody. But anyway, life happens. Life happens. Great, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.